So I grew up in a very sheltered, overprotective household. And something I can say that I did not benefit from was not being told certain things. I was basically being held back from a lot of things in life, and it kind of backfired because as I got older, I had to deal with the repercussions of not understanding life itself in the real sense instead of just being always in the house. I didn't understand relationships. I didn't understand real friendships. I didn't understand like the easiest things to people who got to be outside and like live their life and make mistakes. I never understood that until I got older. So I had to make mistakes. I'm only 21, but I had to make mistakes older. I had to learn things by myself, or because I was not told it. So if you're someone who's a parent, or if you're someone who can relate, then you know what I'm talking about. Where being sheltered is not good for your child. Keeping them from things, and especially not telling them about that, is not good. Yes, you want to try to keep them from so much when they're young, but at some point you have to start introducing and at least teaching them what to know for the real world. Because once you get to the real world, you know how the real world is. So why would you send your child out clueless? I just want to share that for anyone who has kids, or if you know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments, because I don't think it's the way to go. I think it's scary to want to put your kids onto things that are real, but we are in real life. We're a kid, we're going to grow up. I was once 16 years old, not knowing a clue about anything because I was kept from everything, and now I'm 21 and having to learn everything by myself.
Tell me your parents were way too strict without telling me your parents were way too.
I have social anxiety. I'm scared to go outside the house. I always think I'm going to get raped, killed, or kidnapped. And I'm not street smart because no one's ever taught me.
Now that we're older, do you understand like how our parents were overprotective over us now?
I can understand. I won't excuse their behavior though, because they were out of pocket as fuck. But I feel like that hurt us more than it like protected us, if that makes sense. And I know they're trying to do the best that they could, and that's why I forgive them for it. And but it doesn't mean that
it was all completely okay. Or
it would be nice to hear like some accountability.
Overprotective or helicopter parenting can be damaging to children. But before we understand what the damage is, I think it's important to define what an overprotective parent is. Overprotective or helicopter parents are people normally who try to control their children's environments in order to emotionally, physically, and psychologically protect them. But their methods are a little bit excessive, and because of those excessive methods, it kind of backfires, and they do cause mental and emotional and at times physical damage as well. So what are some of these things that could be like overprotective? Not letting you meet friends if they don't know everything about them and know their family, and keep you in the house and not allow you opportunities to socialize. It could look like you are not allowed to gain milestones of freedom in order to gain independence. So that can be one of the things where they restrict you too much and hinder your growth and make you in turn even more dependent on them. There are a lot of examples like this, or, they're trying to protect you so they don't allow you to watch any TV, listen to any music, go online at all, and then you're kind of socially also disconnected from your peers because you don't know what they're talking about. Stuff like that. Like I mentioned before, some of these things can be like super damaging to kids. Like you become hyper independent, hyper paranoid because your parents were always paranoid that something was going to happen to you, so you don't take appropriate life risks or develop a lot of fear and anxiety. Another course is that you like I think I mentioned earlier, you become emotionally also disconnected from yourself and emotionally unintelligent because you haven't had exposure to enough people in order to develop social cues. There's just a lot of examples like this. There's a fine line between wanting to protect your kids versus hinder their growth.
Strict or sheltering parents can create insecure kids. This might not be the case for everybody, but this can be the case for some. So I was having a conversation with my mom a few months ago, and I was telling her that, my parents weren't necessarily strict, but they were sheltering, and it wasn't horrible, but it was enough for, me and my siblings to be very dependent on them. And I was telling her that I just don't feel like I can do everything that I want to do. And she was like, well, you have a car, you have the time. If you want to go do something, get up and go do it. And I had to break it down to her and tell her that it's not that simple. I had to tell her I went my whole childhood being made to feel like I could not make certain decisions by myself. I went my whole childhood feeling like I had to get y'all's validation and approval for every single little thing, and now I don't trust my own decision making. So it's not about being able to transport myself wherever I want to go. It's about the fact that no matter how old I get, I still feel like a child because I felt like I was never given the opportunity to trust my own discernment. And I was trying to tell her that has had an impact in every area of my life. And I'm not a parent hater, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to make them feel bad for stuff of the past because, you know, there is no guidebook to being a parent. However, I was trying to get my mom to understand it's not that easy. I've spent most of my life thinking one thing and having to do things a certain way that by the time that I became an adult and I could kind of do more on my own, the desire to do it was gone. It's almost like I feel like I'm living in a bubble, and I know that I'm not. I know that I could do so much more, and it's going to be up to me to do that, right? But what I'm saying is that living in a certain kind of confinement for the larger part of my life, it's hard to break out of that.
Hey everyone, it's Babe. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back in another video. I am here to talk about a topic that has been weighing very heavily on me for the past couple of years, and I thought now would be a good time to talk about it, which are the struggles that I have been having as an adult who grew up sheltered. I feel like my 20s have just been all over the place, and you know, obviously your 20s in general are just very all over the place and confusing. You're figuring out who you are, and you're, you know, going through the motions, and you're living life, and you know, you're figuring out life, and you're going through growing pains and things like that. But I feel like I've had an extra layer of difficulty when it comes to adulthood because of me growing up sheltered. And so I really wanted to talk about this in this video. But before I get to that, I actually wanted to introduce my sponsor for today's video, Ana Luisa. Ana Luisa is a jewelry brand that offers high quality pieces that are made with really great care and really great detail. These pieces aren't made to tarnish, so they're meant to last a really long time, and they also won't break your wallet, with their pieces only starting at $39. And I actually wanted to show you some of the pieces that I got from Ana Luisa in today's video. So all their packaging and all their products are made with the environment in mind, which I really appreciate as someone that is very concerned about the planet and global warming. I really appreciate a brand that really cares about the environment. So I want to start off by showing you guys these earrings. Super duper cute, very dainty but very cute. They have both like gold and silver detailing in it, so you're able to wear it, you know, with gold necklaces, with silver necklaces. I'm actually gonna go ahead and try these on, putting these in. I gotta move my hair back so y'all can actually see the earrings, but as you guys can see, even though they're really small and dainty, they're still really beautiful, really stunning. I really like these a lot. Okay, now I want to show you guys these really cute heart earrings. I absolutely love these. I love any type of earring that has like a little shape on it, whether it be a heart or a star, anything like that. I love earrings that look like this. So with these earrings, you actually have to like open it like that to put them in. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what these look like. Yeah, I really like these. These are super cute. Like, these are me coded. I just love the heart. And it's funny because anyone that's been watching me for a minute, y'all know that I love hoops. Like, I tend to wear big hoops, big earrings, but these are like super duper cute. Like, I could see myself wearing these to like an event, like a nice event or a birthday dinner. Even my birthday dinner that's coming up in a couple of months, I could totally see myself wearing these. So I'm actually going to go ahead and keep these on for the rest of the video. And then last but not least, I just have a simple chain necklace here. Now, as of recently, I have gotten into layering my necklaces like a lot. I find myself wanting to always layer my necklaces. So this is a really nice simple chain to layer your necklaces with, or to just wear, you know, by itself if you want something simple to wear. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what this looks like layered. Okay, so I have the chain necklace on. Now, obviously, these are like two different colors, but I don't know if you can tell that these are two different colors, but you know, I have the silver necklace on top and the gold necklace at the bottom, but it still looks really nice layered. So, but yeah, as I said earlier, all these pieces are made to last. They don't break easily. They don't tarnish easily. So you know that you're investing in high quality jewelry when you shop with Ana Luisa. So make sure you guys check out the link in my bio to shop with Ana Luisa if you guys are interested. So on the topic of growing up sheltered, right? So growing up, I grew up in a single parent household, and my mom was a helicopter parent. She was a helicopter parent. She was very on me and everything that I did, and she was extremely protective of me. And although I will always be grateful for how protective she is of me, I do think there is a balance between, protecting your child and suffocating them, and, protecting your child versus not really allowing them to live their life, to figure things out on their own, to explore. And I feel like that's where I lacked a lot in my childhood. I honestly feel like growing up, I wasn't really allowed to make any decisions for myself. I always did what other people wanted me to do. And I was just like that across the board, like at home, at school. And I think it started at home, right? Like at home, like you're taught, like you do what you're told, you listen to authority, you do what, your parent wants you to do. I think the hard thing for me too with that is the way that my mom would parent. Whenever she would tell me, what to do, or she would discipline me, there wasn't ever really an explanation for why she told me to do the things that she wanted me to do. Like, it was never a thing of like, hey, you shouldn't do this because you could get hurt, or you shouldn't do this because of X, Y, and Z, these consequences can happen. It was always, you do what you're told because I'm your parent, and that's it. And so there was a lot of things that I was doing just because I was being told to do it, not even knowing what the consequences were, or what was, the reason behind, why I wasn't allowed to do certain things. And I feel like as I started to grow older, I started to get more and more frustrated because I just felt like I was so like lost and confused on so many things, and nothing was being explained to me. And when I became a little bit older, like a teenager, I did start to like ask questions and push back a little bit of like, well, why can't I do X, Y, and Z? Because these were things that to me didn't make sense. Like, for instance, I wasn't allowed to go to sleepovers, right? Like I was never allowed to go and sleep over at anyone's house until I got much older, and there was never any explanation for why I couldn't do that. So for me as a kid, I'm like, you're not allowing me to hang out with my friends. Literally everybody goes to sleepovers. Like, I'm missing out on a core part of my childhood because you're being overprotective. And obviously now as an adult, and seeing what's been coming out recently with all these PDF files and things that are going on, I now have a deeper understanding of why she did not want me to stay at anyone's home without her being present. But I think there's a way to communicate that to your kid without, being too like direct or vulgar with it. Like, you don't have to sit there and be like, oh, well, because you might get assaulted by somebody, but you can be like, well, I don't really feel all that comfortable with people that I don't really know, and I just want to make sure that you're safe, like just some type of explanation. But I feel like there's just a lot of things that, again, I was just doing because I was told. Same thing in school, you listen to your teachers and you listen to other people, and I feel like I kind of took that mindset and also applied it to friendships as well. That caused me a lot of issues where it was like, okay, I do things because people tell me to do them, or I do things out of wanting to please other people. Like, that was a really big thing for me growing up too, is that I wanted to please my mother. I wanted to make her proud, and so I wanted to do things that would make her happy, even if there were things that I didn't necessarily want to do or that I didn't agree with. And I felt like that also too played a role in my friendships and relationships later on in life. But I feel like because I was always told what to do and how to do it, and there wasn't much space for me to find myself and be my own person and make my own decisions, I feel like it stunted my growth a lot, to where now as an adult, I'm over here, not to say that I have no idea who I am. Like, I have a pretty good understanding of who I am, what I'm into, what type of person I am, but I didn't really get to express that as a kid, even when it came down to like the clothes I would wear, or the music I would listen to, or just the things that I wanted to do. Like, yes, my mom allowed me to be creative. I will say in that aspect, she allowed me to get my creativity out, whether it was, drawing stuff or creating bracelets or, doing little things like that. But it was always a thing of like, if I didn't do something the way that my mom would do it, she would often tell me that I'm doing it wrong. And she does that to this day. It's like, I can't breathe correctly. I can't do anything correctly, because anytime I would try tried to put together an outfit, there was always something wrong with my clothes. And granted, y'all seen me on camera. I don't dress, super provocative. I'm not out here showing cleavage all the time. And it's funny because I literally will get comments from guys saying like, oh, well, maybe if you dressed a little bit more, like basically saying if I showed off more skin or if I, got all done up on camera, like maybe I have a better time finding men. And it's like, I don't get dressed up on these YouTube videos trying to attract men. I'm dressed up comfortably. I think I look fine. I don't think I'm on camera looking crusty. But anyway, that's besides the point. But it would always be a thing of like, if I try to put together my own outfits, then it's, oh, you don't have a sense of style. You don't have any taste whatsoever. Instead of it being, okay, you just have a different style. You have different clothes and a different way that you like to dress. It was always, oh, you don't have any fashion taste. Why are you wearing that? And again, I wasn't wearing nothing crazy. But according to her, because I didn't dress how she would want me to dress, or because she would often buy me clothes that I would never wear, and if I chose not to wear, then it was always a thing of like, oh, well, you just don't have any fashion sense or something wrong with you. I do find more and more that because now that I am an adult and I am making my own decisions about what I wear, what I eat, and I have a little bit more autonomy over the decisions that I make, I often get pushed back a lot where it's like she feels like I'm doing everything wrong because I'm not doing it in the way that she would do it. And I'm like, this was literally the issue with me growing up, is that I didn't have much autonomy. I couldn't really make any decisions. And now as an adult, I literally second guess every single decision that I make. I overthink everything. I have a really hard time being sure in the things that I want to do, and I often would find myself asking people for second, third, fourth opinions because I was never truly confident in making decisions for myself. And I feel like it's because whenever I would try to make decisions growing up, it was always like, no, this is not how you should do things. You should do things this way. And I don't think that that's healthy, and I feel like it affected me as an adult now having to make decisions for myself. Like literally, like, because when you're a kid, like, it's easy to kind of just follow behind what everyone else wants you to do. But when you're out here in the world on your own, having to make your own decisions, when you're already not comfortable and confident in making decisions, it could lead you to making poor decisions because I wasn't allowed that space to make mistakes. And that's another element too of growing up sheltered, is that I was not allowed to make mistakes. And this is less about being sheltered, I guess, and more about just being overprotective and overbearing. I was not allowed to make mistakes. Every single time I would make a mistake, I would always get yelled at. I would always get punished. And a lot of times my mom would just do everything for me. Like, she would just handle everything for me. And it got to a point where when I became an adult, I didn't know how to do much for myself, and I didn't have a lot of experience doing things, to where even simple stuff like ordering my own food, I didn't start ordering my own food until I got to college. Like, I kid you not, like when I turned 18 and I went to college, that was my first time ordering my own food. And I remember being so anxious and nervous. I will never forget it. George Mason University, the JC, if you know, you know. I was in the JC and I wanted to get some chicken tenders from Steak and Shake. And, it was like midday. The JC was packed. There were a bunch of people in there. And I remember pacing back and forth from one end of the JC to the whole other end. And I kept looking at the line, and I'm literally sitting there trying to convince myself and get myself together to actually just stand in line to get Steak and Shake. And then as I'm in the line, I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the menu, I'm studying the menu, I'm rehearsing what I'm gonna say. And it's little moments like that where I'm like, dang, I'm just really out here in the world not knowing what to do with myself because I don't have a lot of that experience. And I think, and this is where the sheltering comes into play, because I wasn't really allowed to go out on my own like that. Like, my mom always kind of had to be there. And because I also had a hard time making friends, and I also didn't get invited out all that often, by the time I got to an age where my mom got a little bit more comfortable with me leaving the house and doing my own thing, I didn't have a lot of friends. And even the friends that I had at the time were not that great. I didn't hang out with them often. So I just didn't really have a lot of life experience like outside of this house and going to school, and that's it. Same thing with traveling. I never really traveled. I'm just now starting to get out the house more, go places. And to this day, the farthest place that I've been to is Maryland. I live in Virginia. I live in Virginia. The farthest place I've ever been to is Maryland. I've never been to North Carolina. I haven't been to any surrounding states. I've never been, out the country. I've never been on an airplane. And part of that is because I've always had a fear of planes, but I've also never had the opportunity to get out of the country or go to another state. And I've low-key been trying to hint to my friends that I want to go somewhere so I can go ahead and get over my fear of planes. But again, the opportunities just haven't been aligning at all for me to do that. But I say all that to say, back to my initial point of not being allowed to make mistakes and my mom handling everything for me. Now I'm making all kinds of mistakes as an adult when it comes to who I choose, to be in my life as a friend, picking the wrong people to be in relationships with, because I also wasn't allowed to date either. But even if I was allowed to date, that opportunity again never came up. There was never a point in time where someone asked me to be their girlfriend when I was in high school and middle school, and it was like actually like a thing. Like I never even had the opportunity to date. But even outside of that, wasn't allowed to date, wasn't allowed to go out. I never traveled, never really been anywhere. So graduating high school and going into college, everything was new to me. Ordering food by myself was new. Going to the grocery store without my mom there was new. Like everything was a brand new experience. And it made me realize just how behind I am in life, how behind I am when it comes to my development as a person and as an adult, because I often feel that the people around me, friends, roommates, partners, I always felt like everybody was so much more ahead of me, even people that were younger than me, because I'm also typically the older person in my friend groups. And I often find that even my friends that are even like 2 or 3 years younger than me, I feel like they have so much more life experience and they know so much more than I do because they were allowed to live and experience life. And for me, I'm still catching up. I'm still having to do a lot of things, for the first time, or having my friends kind of like walk me through. So hey, like, how do I go about doing this, or how do I do that? Because I just don't know. I feel like it started to cause people to almost judge me a little bit because I'm so behind, I guess, when it comes to me growing as a person. This transition into adulthood for me has just been so tough. And that's the other thing too. I have a really hard time talking to people about how difficult it truly has been for me, because a lot of my friends are past where I am right now. So for me, I'm talking about how difficult it is, doing certain things, but for them it's like, oh girl, I've been having to do that for a couple of years now. And like even in friendships, like I find myself like wanting to do certain things that I should have did when I was a kid. Because when people often ask me like, oh, like, what do you want to do for fun? Or when I'm hanging out with people, I'm trying to think of like plans. My idea of a fun day out with friends is like walking around the mall, going to the movies, going shopping. But for a lot of my friends, it's like, well, we've been there, done that. Like that was our whole high school experience. But for me, I didn't really have a lot of those experiences growing up. Like, yes, I've been like, I could probably count on my hand how many times I actually went out like with friends outside of the house. And out of those few times, it was very few that I actually like, again, got to walk around the mall and go to the movies. I've been to the movies with friends before. Like, don't get it twisted. But a lot of people, it's like for them, it's like, they would always go to the movies if something new was dropping. They would spend every single weekend walking around the mall. They go out and get, Buffalo Wild Wings on Thursdays or whatever that day is that they have like the specials or whatever. Like that was like a thing for them. But for me, stuff like walking around the mall and having sleepovers, things that are, I guess, seen as like childish or things that are boring because people grew up doing it, for me, it's still something that I actively want to do because I think it's partly me trying to heal my inner child and to reclaim the childhood that I never got. Like I never got to just have sleepovers all the time and have game nights and go to the movies often. Like I missed out on a lot of that. And so now as an adult, I'm literally down to do whatever because I didn't get to have those like teenage experiences of just going out on a random Friday night and just doing whatever. I'm trying to relive that now. Because even as I was thinking about like what do I want to do for my birthday coming up, I was talking to my friend and the things that were coming to mind was like, yeah, I would love to just do like a sleepover in a hotel and play video games, or man, if I had the money, I would love to just rent out a skating rink doing. And it's like you're hearing these things and you're like, girl, this is like children's stuff. Like these are things that children do. Like the grown-ups, we go to brunch, we go to parties, and we do all of that. But it's like for me, again, I didn't really get to have those experiences of just hanging out with my friends on the weekends and just doing whatever. And so I'm trying to live that out now in my adult years. But again, because a lot of my friends have kind of done that, for them it's like, well, that's kind of boring. Like I don't want to do that. And so, you know, it's interesting, right? And it's also played a role in relationships too. Like in my previous relationship, there was conversations around the fact that I didn't have a lot of life experience, and also with that being my first relationship, I didn't have a lot of relationship experience, and that actually became a concern for the person that I was with, so much so that it made them second guess even wanting to be with me, because they felt like they had to teach me a lot of stuff. And in the beginning it didn't bother them as much, but then like over time, even I could pick up that they started to become like annoyed. And honestly, I felt like I almost became a burden to them, because it was like I was having a lot of my first like adult experiences and a lot of my first relationship experiences with this person, and they didn't really like that. They didn't really like the fact that they had to like teach me so many things and walk me through so many things. And it was almost to the point where, or actually no, it had gotten to a point where they're like, I would rather you have all these first experiences with someone else. Like I don't want to have to be the person that kind of walks you through all these things. Even when we were talking about the fact that I hadn't been on an airplane and, you know, they enjoy traveling, they basically were like, you know, I don't want to be the person to get you through your first plane ride and having to deal with all of that. Like I'd rather someone else deal with that. So it's even become a pain point romantically for me, where the person that I was with, they started to feel burdened with the fact that I wasn't where they were when it came to life experience, and it was a turn off. And so it's something that I've come to realize with me reflecting on my childhood, reflecting on how I grew up and how it's playing a role in my day-to-day now. It actually is like affecting me. It's affecting my friendships, it's affecting my relationships, it's affecting how I connect with people. It's affecting me in various ways. And I think it also contributes to why I often feel lonely and a lot of the things that I've been experiencing now. Because again, for me, it's like I'm dealing with so many things that I'm not used to dealing with. I feel overwhelmed, like help. But for other people, it's like, I mean, we've been there already. We've already had our first relationship. We've already had to do all these things on our own. We've already had to order food on our own, had to book our own appointments since I was like 8. Like a lot of people have already had these experiences already. So although for me it's brand new and it's fresh, for them it's like, you know, nothing. And so I don't know, it's a very interesting place that I'm in right now in adulthood, where I'm figuring things out. And it's funny too, because as much as my mom did shelter me, I don't think she realizes the effects of it, because again, when I'm figuring things out and I'm making mistakes, she's like, well, how did you not know how to do this? Or how did you not know this? And it's like, because you never taught me. You never explained this to me. You never showed me. So how do you expect me to just know something that was never taught or never explained? It's almost like she expected things to just happen or come naturally. And there are some things that do, but then there's other things that just don't. Like there's just certain things that you kind of just have to figure out on your own. And again, with me still living at home, it's kind of making it even harder to still make mistakes and have my own growing pains, because I'm still getting judged and told that, hey, like you're doing things wrong, even down to the way that I cook, the way that I do anything really, like even down to how I decide to put the paper towel roll, you know, up in the kitchen. It's like, oh no, you're doing it wrong. It needs to be flipped the other way. And it's just like, I'm not being given the space and the breathing room to do my own thing and figure out what works for me, because I'm getting so much judgment at home. And honestly, for me, this just reinforces that if I ever become a parent, if I ever decide to become a parent, if that is in the cards for me, that I'm gonna make sure that I do my best, right? Because parents make mistakes, but I'm gonna do my best to try and maintain that balance of protecting my child, but also allowing my child to be their own person, to make mistakes and to learn, because I don't want them to go into the world like a deer in headlights, not knowing what's going on, not knowing how to fend for themselves, like how I felt when I went to college. Like my first semester in college was tough. I'm not gonna lie. It was really, really tough because that was also the first time I was really like on my own. Well, the first time I was on my own was at summer camp, but that's a little bit different because you still have adults that you report to. There's still like a lot of structure there. But when you're in college, you're on your own. You know, like you make your own schedule for your classes. Like you decide what you want to eat, when you want to eat, you know, when you do your homework. Like you are in full control of you and your schedule and your decision making and who you decide to interact with. You're in full control. And when you're not used to having that control, it can be very overwhelming. And for me, that's how it was. I was extremely overwhelmed, extremely anxious. And even when I tried to find solace and comfort in people who were familiar, like my roommate or people that I had met prior, even with that, it's like for them, they kind of have like that independent mindset of like, okay, we don't need to do everything together. We don't have to go everywhere together. But for me, I wanted my comfort blanket because I didn't want to, you know, have to figure everything out on my own, even down to like figuring out how to get around campus and how to use public transportation or how to use the metro. And there were so many things that I wasn't used to figuring out on my own. But even to that point, right? A lot of my friends knew how to do that stuff because when they were younger, their parents walked them through it. The whole public transportation thing was such a that was such an annoying time for me, right? Because, you know, for those of y'all who don't know, George Mason, the school that I went to, is in Fairfax, which is near DC, which has a lot of public transit. And people often use things like the metro and the bus and Amtrak to get around, right? And a lot of the people that I met that went to college there, they grew up using metro. They used the metro since they were in high school or even middle school. A lot of their parents walked them through how to do a lot of that stuff. So them coming into college, they already knew how to get around and do all of that. But for me, I was brand new. And I had such a hard time getting people to help me. I only just learned how to use the metro this year in March because I finally was with somebody that could help me learn it. Now, granted, you know, I have had people like show me how like certain things work when I was on the metro with them. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that I've never like ridden metro with somebody and was able to patiently and understandably like show me how things work. And even to the point where, you know, we had used the metro to get to one point, and then when it came to us going back, they were like, okay, I'm gonna have you get us back to where we just came from. And honestly, I think that was the best way for me to learn it, was to have somebody there in the event that I mess up, but giving me the room and the space to make a mistake, to implement what I had learned. Like that's what I needed. And I feel like I could not find a single person that was willing to do that for me, that was willing to help me learn how to do metro and ride the bus. And I just felt like those were things that, I mean, yes, sure, there were things that I could have figured out on my own, but because I, again, was such a deer in headlights and because I didn't have that sense of independence and it was still very new and fresh for me, the thought of learning how to ride the city bus by myself, the thought of trying to learn how to use metro and what the signs mean and what direction to go in all by myself, to me just like was very overwhelming, didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But there were people who were literally expecting me to learn how to do all this stuff on my own. They're like, oh, like metro was easy, learning how to do all this stuff is easy. And I'm like, but y'all are the same ones that had the opportunity to learn how to do this stuff with someone else, whether it was a friend or a parent or a family member. Almost all of my friends learned how to use public transit for the very first time with somebody. So why is it that I'm expected to learn all this stuff on my own by myself for the very first time? Same thing with Amtrak. It took me a really long time to learn how to use Amtrak because I never been at a train station before. I don't know how that stuff works, and it was very overwhelming for me. But everybody was down my neck about using Amtrak, and I'm like, fam, I don't want to ride it by myself for the first time. Like all I need is that first or second time with somebody to get at least familiar with my surroundings and how the process is, so then that way when I am doing it on my own, I'm not as lost. But to put me in this a situation where I have no concept of nothing by myself. Like, I appreciate the fact that you have that much faith in me, but again, it became overwhelming. But I somehow was able to figure out Amtrak on my own. It's crazy what you will do for someone that you are in love with. That is the only reason why I got on that train by myself, because otherwise I was not going. I had a panic attack the entire time I was on. Well, not the entire time. I had a panic attack going onto the train and getting off the train, but I survived. Now I'm riding Amtrak all the time, so it ended up working out. But again, it's just having that conflict with people where they're like, oh, you should be comfortable doing this, it's easy, like you'll be fine. But for me, I kind of revert back to that little girl of like, no, I need help. I need help, I need assistance, I need people to help me. And so I don't know, it's been a lot of growing pains in my 20s, and with me now approaching my mid-20s, I'm gonna vomit saying that. It's interesting because I just made that video about how I feel like I've just been making bad decisions. I feel like I just been making so many terrible decisions with the school that I chose to go to, the degree that I chose to study for, the people that I chose to befriend and to date. Like, I just feel like I've made so many poor decisions, and I feel like it's because, or it's linked to, my lack of experience. We don't have that life experience and you're kind of just going into it naive and not really knowing much. You're more vulnerable to making poor decisions, and I feel like those decisions have led me to where I am today, where I still feel a little bit behind. And yes, I know you can't compare journeys and everyone's on their own journey, but I want to catch up. I want to catch up. I want to start, kind of getting with it and really finding my independence. And I'm working on it, right? Like, a big part of it is the financials, right? I can't move out currently because financially it's just not possible. I'm trying to make money. I tried the whole finding a full-time job after college, or at least trying to get multiple part-time jobs to try and save up money and get myself to where I can provide for myself. That did not work out, so now I'm trying the whole content creation entrepreneurship route full-time, seeing where that takes me, and then I'll hop back to the job market if need be. But I've been trying there. I've been doing my best to kind of get myself ahead and get myself to where I want to be, but unfortunately I'm just not. And I know some of the stuff is outside of my control. Like, I can't control the economy, I can't control the job market, but what I can control is my decision making. And I feel like, again, so many of the decisions that I've made naively is because I didn't know any better, and I didn't have anyone to walk me through or to teach me or to show me, hey, how do I go about doing this? Even with me, setting up my own credit, I begged my mom to help me get my credit set up, because I'm like, by the time I graduate, I don't want my credit to be the reason why I don't move out. I want to have my credit solidified. And after years and years of asking her, she kept pushing it off, like, oh, don't worry about it, like, we'll get to it later, you don't need credit right now. I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna need credit soon. And so it led me to, again, asking around, talking to friends, like, hey, which credit card company do you have, and which bank do you have your credit card at? And I ended up getting a credit card, having no idea what the APR stuff was. And I did a really good job at maintaining my credit. Like, I wasn't someone that like blew all of my money and couldn't pay it back. I was very intentional about how much money I spent and knowing that I could pay it back. But the issue came in when the APR set in, because I didn't know it was like, oh, when you first sign up for the first year, it's this amount, but then after like a year or two, it bumps up to like 24%. So the interest kicked my behind and no one told me that. And now I'm fine. Credit card is paid off. My credit is really good now. But again, it's like, it would have been nice if I had my mother to kind of walk me through that, but because she doesn't really want me to grow up and she's not really explaining anything to me, I have to just figure everything out on my own. And so it's frustrating, and it can often feel very isolating. And that's why I wanted to make this video, to see if there were any other adults out there that also had similar experiences, where you grew up very sheltered and protected, and you kind of had your parent or your parents doing everything for you, always telling you what to do, and not really having a lot of life experience, and not really having the opportunity to figure things out on your own, and how that has played out as an adult. And I wanted to see if any of you all out there have had issues as an adult because of your upbringing, and because you grew up in such a helicopter household, that now that you're out in the world on your own, making your own decisions, decisions, like just that feeling of being overwhelmed, of being anxious. I think is where a lot of my anxiety comes from just not knowing and always feeling unprepared, and just that, again, that lack of experience. And so if any of y'all can relate to anything that I said in this video in regards to, you know, my upbringing and how it's affected my relationships, how it's affected my adulthood, please share your stories in the comments down below so I don't feel alone. Because yeah, it's been tough out here. It's been tough. I know adulting is tough regardless, even if you have parents that are super carefree and let you do whatever. I know adulthood is tough for everybody, no matter what your upbringing is, but I did want to see if anybody else kind of had that same feeling of like, oh my god, I'm just so overwhelmed, I feel so lost, I feel like I'm not making any good decisions, and also kind of struggling with identity in terms of, you know, figuring out, you know, what you like and what you don't like, and if you often feel that there's pushback from your parents in what they want you to be and what they want you to do and how to go about doing things. I do want to hear if anyone else out there has gone through that as well. And so yeah, let me know all your thoughts about this topic in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead, give it a big thumbs up. And as I said earlier in the video, if you guys are interested in any of the jewelry pieces that I showed in the beginning of this video, make sure you guys check out the link in my bio, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.